Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where first things first, if my voice sounds a little weird, it's because it's springtime here in the US and I was working outside quite a lot yesterday. It was very pollen-y, so I'm experiencing a little bit of allergies in the throat area right now. So if my voice sounds a little weird or if it does like cracking or whatever, that would be the reason. But for now, we're going to hop into the VAB. And once inside the VAB, what are we going to do? Well, we are going to be looking to go back to either the moon or Minmus. It doesn't actually matter which. We'll open up the moon lander here. And I definitely want to replace the skipper here that we never actually got around to replacing. I want to replace that now with a good old-fashioned mainsail. There we go. So this first stage is now probably wildly overpowered. 1.95. I think we'll thrust limit the side boosters here. 1.63. That's actually pretty close. So like 70%. That's pretty good. Okay, so 70% thrust there. We'll limit that side booster. Fantastic. And I'm not sure what I just kicked onto the ground, but okay, something's on the ground now. I'll have to check that after this episode. Fantastic. And what else do we want to do here? Well, we don't necessarily want to be bringing these three items. What do we want to bring? Well, we want to go to... What are they under? Payload? No, they're under science, aren't they? No, they're under cargo. What am I talking about? So, a weather analyzer isn't actually going to be useful because it requires an atmosphere. Now, we'll still bring one if we've got room. A passive seismometer we could also bring. However, the moon and Minmus are both not tectonically active, and so we would have to crash things into the surface to get science from that. We have the ED monitor. We do have the communitron. That might be something that we want to bring. For some reason, I was thinking that we had another experiment. I was definitely thinking that we had another experiment. Maybe... Let's go ahead and save this. That's fine. Because we did make a couple of changes. But let's hop out of here and let's see if we can get another experiment or if we need to get some additional science for that. We've got... Probodobodines, we've got... See, that's monoprop. Nothing really there. Deployable RTGs. Obviously, we're not going to get up here. So, scanning tech. We do have enough to grab something from this row. So, infrared telescopes, I mean, we're definitely going to need that. Surface scanning module. Atmospheric fluid spectrovariometer. Medium scanning arm. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing to bring along. Standard rotors, rove maxes, so that's like just for making rover type things. The 10-meter heat shield, that might be useful if we decide to go to like Eve or something, but I'll probably stay away from Eve, considering we spent a long time on that in the last series. So we'll probably not do that just now. Inflatable airlocks, yeah, Kerbal tanks, and nuclear propulsion. So, I mean, honestly, scanning tech is what we want to take here. So we'll grab that. That does not give us any new deployables. So, for the time being, we might want to think about setting up an orbital telescope. But I do want to do another landing. To that end, we are going to need... Let's see, how much power do we need here? 1 power required. And if we set this up with an engineer level 1, it would produce 2 power, blah, 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 blah. What level engineer is Bill? He's a level 2. So he would produce 3 power. Having the communitron isn't a terrible concept. And we know for a fact that we're not going to get any science whatsoever out of the weather analyzer in either of these. Because it does have to have an atmosphere. We could set one up here on Kerbal, I suppose. That is an option. We'll bring a passive seismometer. And we should be completely okay to just drop these off at both of our current sites. And we'd just be updating those a bit and completing our contract to plant a flag at the same time. So that would be the concept there. We'll save this and double check contracts again, just to make sure that there isn't anything in there that we might want before we go. Oh, and we're going to want to put in additional science as well. Flyby of Eve. Probably not right now. New orbital station around Minmus. Probably not. This we'd have to drop a lot of things onto the surface of the moon. We'll probably avoid that as well. So it looks like there's not really much for contracts there. So let's go ahead and put in our spectrovariometer. We're going to want that. And we're also going to want the surface scanner. So let's go into science. And inside of our service bay here, we're going to put in the new science equipment. So we're going to put in, we're not going to have an infrared telescope on that. That's huge. We're going to have a separate satellite for that. Magnetometers, however, that's something that we should be bringing along. We can just attach that here. So that'll be some good science. Let's see. We could bring a survey scanner. Again, I'm not really that interested in that. We'll probably build like a combination telescope survey scanner satellite to put around all of these bodies in a bit. I think for now, we're going to need the spectrovariometer. Of course, that requires an atmosphere. So this will only actually be useful if we are doing this on ascent or descent. And it's not wanting to go inside of the bay. Okay. We could mount it externally here. That's probably fine. It might burn off on re-entry, but, I mean, probably not. We didn't have these photovoltaic panels burn off, so I don't think it will. That should be fine. Are we missing anything else here? I don't think we are. No, I think we're good. Okay, so what Kerbals are we going to want to bring to the moon? We brought Jeb to the moon previously, so we're going to be bringing Valentina, and of course Hadgard will be the scientist that we bring along. So Valentina will get some more experience for flying, or actually landing on the moon, planting a flag on the moon. That'll be 5 experience. And then Jeb will be the one that goes to Minmus next. We're just swapping those out. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch this. This is, of course, going for the moon, not for Minmus. Any moment now, KSP. There we go. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to open up, or actually we don't need to open it up because we mounted it externally. We're going to do an atmospheric analysis, and we will keep that experiment, and then we will collect that experiment up here. We can grab another one. And apparently we could grab a surface sample and an EVA report. I think we already have the EVA report, but we grab the surface sample and we'll just recover that. Excellent. So that'll get us a little bit of science here. We need all the science we can get our hands on right now, obviously. So, I mean, that's 7.6 science. It's not much, but it's a little bit. And now we're going to do this again. So we will launch. And I don't think we're going to need to grab it here. Although if we do, we can just grab it and then take off with it in the experiment storage unit. That's not a big deal. Yeah, we can grab it now and experiment storage unit it. That's this guy. There we go. And we will throttle up, SAS on, and double check our staging here. I should do that. So first things first, these engines fire, then the side boosters drop off, then the main booster drops off, and our maneuvering thrusters fire up, and our nose cones that we can launch at basically any time. And then the maneuvering stage falls off, and the landing stage fires up. The side boosters come off, and then the heat shield is exposed with the landing stage detaching, and then the drogue chute, and then the main chute, and then this that we will never use. Perfect. So that is all good to go, and off we go. And we're going to start heading on over here. Hey, look at this. We can now go to additional areas. We can't lock to maneuver node just yet, but we'll be able to do that pretty soon, so that'll be great. Our SRBs are going to keep burning for about another minute and a half. No real problem there. Oh yeah, we want to grab our atmospheric analysis, and then we want to collect that data and grab another atmospheric analysis. Actually, no, we need to discard that. We have nowhere to store it without EVAing, and right now would not be a great time to EVA, shall we say. Not a great time at all. We are going to get a good amount of science from this, though. So we get flying low over water. We'll keep that experiment and then collect that one. Excellent. And we can grab these again on the next flight. I'm not too concerned about that. Cool. So our apoapsis height is over halfway there. That's great. And we're just going to hold this attitude for the moment. Actually, our SRBs have a lot of burn left in them. We're going to cut our engines, but our SRBs are going to keep burning here. And we're going to pitch over all the way to the horizon. And we're just going to get as much horizontal speed as we can, but this is going to be a pretty high apoapsis height. These SRBs were burning longer than I expected them to. It's not a problem per se. Go on stability assist, please, Valentina. Okay. Let's get a little distance. Okay. Go back to prograde, Valentina. There we go. So we're just going to drift up, and we're kind of wobbling a little bit. There's no doubt about that, but it's fine. Look how far we are from the apoapsis here. So we're going to have to do a pretty big circularization burn here. There's no doubt about that. We went a little high. That's for sure. Okay. Well, this should be okay. So we're going to head on over towards that maneuver node. Ooh, we have a lot of roll authority. A lot more than I was expecting. Okay. Well, we're just going to warp over towards the node now. And we're going to want to burn this at 1 minute and 6.5 seconds, or 36.5 seconds rather, from the apoapsis. So that'll be fine. We will go ahead and warp towards 36.5 seconds. Okay. And we'll try to position here a bit. We don't have a lot left in our main stage, but that's okay. This is a decent time to burn. It wasn't quite when I wanted to, but close enough. We may want to add a little more power to this stage for going to min-miss. That said, we have so much power in our lander that it's not really a concern. But adding an additional, like, T400 might not be a terrible concept to this tank. Yeah, that could theoretically work. Also, just taking a better ascent profile could theoretically work. Okay, so we are going to finish this burn, and yes, we do still have these attached. We will detach those shortly. Probably should have earlier, but we'll grab our magnetometer report. I think we missed the in-flight high, didn't we? For the spectrovariometer. Well, we can get it on the way back. That's not a huge deal. Okay, so we will continue to position here. This is in orbit, so this is good enough. The magnetometer, we can retract the boom. And we can collect all of that data. Excellent. Next up, we are going to want to head for the moon. So the moon's here right now, so we're going to want to burn for it around here-ish. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, I mean, that's reasonable. If we back off on this ever so slightly. Yeah, not quite that slightly. Well, actually, yeah, that slightly. If we do that, we can do that entirely on this stage. So that's nice. We can do that then our our moon work on this. That's completely okay. So that'll be fine. We will go ahead and position for that. Actually, before we do, I'm going to point normal real quick. And what are we going to do? We are going to get rid of these nose cones. And we're just pointing normal to make sure that they go out of the way. There we go. So those are jettisoned, and we will flip over, not towards retrograde, actually. We're just going to go to the maneuver node. I wish that Valentina was capable of locking to the maneuver node, but she's not quite that yet. Okay, so we'll position right about here. Excellent. And this is going to be burning at T-minus 34 seconds, so that'll be fine. We're going to be burning almost this entire stage. I do think that we should extend this stage a little bit. I also think that just a more efficient ascent profile would do just fine. Okay, so T-minus 34 seconds. Let's do this. We'll go ahead and burn this right now. Cool. So that's going to be basically our whole maneuver stage. If we had the extra fuel here, that'd be like 180 fuel. It's not a huge amount of fuel, is it? But it would be enough to get us quite a distance further. And it's not like we're lacking in power on the first stage. We can lift a heavier payload, that's for sure. So that's definitely something to consider. All we're looking for here is an encounter. And we'll just lock prograde for the moment. All we're looking for here is an encounter. So we just need to push our apoapsis out until we have that. We are going to get a magnetometer reading from in space high over Kerbal. That is certainly something that we shall do. I don't really care about the actual maneuver here. All we want is any encounter. Okay. So this seems fine. We'll call that good. We've got 4 meters per second left in this, which will definitely burn in the retrograde maneuver here. But we're going to need to burn a lot more than that. We'll just burn this on down to around 50 kilometers. Actually, let's go a little lower. Let's go for like 25. Since we are coming in for a landing after all. And where is our current flag setup? Here it is. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll just position for this. We don't need to do any EVAing at this time. Whoa, overshot. Overshot pretty substantially, actually. That's because Valentina is fighting me, trying to take it prograde. I need to stop doing that. Stop it, Valentina. We're basically going retrograde. Okay. So we'll position right here. And then we're going to warp to in space high over Kerbal, where we will get a magnetometer reading. Okay. There's in space high over Kerbal. So we'll get a magnetometer report. Excellent. We'll keep that experiment, and we will collect that up in our storage module. And then we will warp on towards the moon. And here comes the moon. We're already oriented for our burn, and this stage is going to go away very quickly. Okay, so we want to burn this at T-minus 40 seconds. So we will go ahead and warp towards that. Actually, no, we won't. We can grab a materials study here, and I'm actually going to do that since there's still a little bit there. And we'll grab a magnetometer report. And we'll keep that. We'll collect all of that, and yes, that will render the Science Junior inoperable until Hadgard gets out and resets it. We'll do that after this burn. So we'll warp to T-minus 40 seconds, right about now. And yes, that was an extremely small amount of Delta V left in that tank, but that's fine. I would like to be still working on that second phase, or second stage rather. So we definitely do need to extend that a little bit. I'm going to add a T400 for our min-miss mission. I'm pretty convinced about that. Assuming I remember. Which, maybe we should do that, like, now-ish? After this burn, anyway. So, we're going to physics warp here as we complete this burn. Excellent. We're just going to park retrograde for the moment, and we're watching this periapsis number. We want this number. It's in multiple locations here. We want that number to be 25K. So we'll just bring it on down. Okay. We'll get this a little bit softer, or rather slower. That's good enough. Fantastic. So, at this point, let's go ahead and have Hadgard hop out. And Hadgard's mission is to restore the Science Junior. There we go. And then Hadgard will hop back in. There's nothing else to be done here. We have all the science we can get, so that is fantastic. Let's hop on back to the Space Center, and let's add in that additional T400 that I was talking about. I definitely want the extra Delta V for Minmus. I mean, it's not like we can't use the lander's Delta V, but I would really prefer not to use the lander Delta V for orbital maneuvering. For landing, sure. But for orbital maneuvering, I'd rather not. So let's go ahead and extend that stage just a wee bit here. So what are we going to do here? We are going to grab this fuel adapter here. Currently, this is fueled entirely by fuel adapters. And we are going to just toss in an extra T400 fuel tank. Just like that. So that adds a decent amount of extra Delta V here. That changes, let's see here, is this stage 5 here? No, this is stage 7. Okay, so stage 7, the Delta V here is 1525. Without it, it is stage 7. So yeah, it has like 200 Delta V. We may actually want to add the fuel tank here. Now that I think about it, and have it be instead a tank like this. Is that too much? That definitely adds a lot more. There's no doubt about that. What's the overall thrust weight on this? Okay, so we need to turn up the thrust limiter on our SRBs, but I'm completely happy to do that because they burned a little too long previously. So turn them up to 83%. We can still have a heavier lift here. So that's definitely something to consider. We may also want to consider extending this from an XT32, or actually this is all 32s. Yeah, we probably want to rework this as well. So instead of being 3 32s, I think we want to take this to be 2 64s. So that's going to increase the amount of fuel here. I'll still make them orange, naturally. That's going to increase the amount of fuel here, and we will check our aerodynamic overlay versus center of mass as we put these on in quad. It would need to be like up here. Kind of an awkward spot, but sure. And then we would put this back on in dual symmetry and have it be positioned about like that. So now we can see with these attached, we definitely do need to have this lower. So about here would do. Okay, sounds good. So there's a lot more fuel in this now. And we're just going to remove the moon portion of this and just call it the lander. I might come up with a name for it a bit later on. So that'll be absolutely fine. We do need to check our staging here. Absolutely. So this goes here, then these detach. Then that, yes. And then our nose cones up here, correct. And that fires, those detach. Yep, that all looks good. So the staging looks solid. And that's an upgraded model. Absolutely. This is a much, much better model. Although the thruster weight is still low. Right, because we added more weight here. So we cranked these up to 100. 1.65? Yeah, that looks good. So this is about, it's not quite maximum weight for this this lift vehicle. Wow, words are suddenly very, very hard. This is not quite maximum weight, but it's very close. Good. This is about what we want. So if we look at the overall delta V of this thing, I mean, it'll get somewhere. That's for sure. We can now probably think about taking this to Gilly, or to Ike, or quite a number of locations, actually. So that would be great. Of course, for now, we're still working on getting that landing done, but it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we will finish that mission next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.